Guys, welcome back to the boat gang. We have Project Zippy on the block. This is a Miss Geico 24 discontinued pro boat model, which actually has a strut rudder on the boat. Okay, one of my subscribers actually sent this boat to me to do a build series on, and that's what we're going to do. In this build series, it's going to be a little bit different than what I normally do. We're actually going to focus on each aspect of the upgrade process in each video. I'm going to try to keep the videos rather short. Okay, today we're going to focus on upgrading the strut. The next video will be installing the stuffing tube. The next video will be the rudder, and so on. So stick around, you guys. It's going to be a pretty fun little build series. So the Miss Geico 24 is very similar to the Blackjack 24. Those of you who own this boat, a lot of the upgrades I'm going to do to this one will apply to the 24. Okay, this is basically how we're going to set up the Miss Geico: offset rudder, strut, and a transom mounted water pickup. I upgraded this boat right here about 2 years ago, you know, and it's still kind of holding strong. So we're actually going to be installing the Speedmaster. It's basically a Sport 21 flat bottom strut. It's really not really my first option for this boat, because it's actually kind of big. I've already had it out. I've already done some tinkering. I polished up the strut, got it like a nice mirror finish. Okay, flat bottom. This is basically the finish that comes on it, like this, and I've got it all polished up here. Before I install hardware on my boats, I usually try to polish them, aka blueprint your hardware, make it more hydrodynamic, less drag, more efficient. Okay, so when you're upgrading a boat, and it don't just go for this boat, it goes for basically any boat, ready to run, home built boats, you got to do some modifications a lot of times to make things work out, you know. So let's go ahead and get this strut rudder strutter off the boat. It was pretty simple. PROBOAT actually used a nut plate back there, so I just had to remove the 4 screws. Pretty simple. Okay, so that's the mounting pattern that's on the boat. All right, so we're actually going to take our base, put our strut shank in the base. This is the barrel, this is the shank, and we need to actually make sure that this bolt pattern is going to match up to our bolt pattern, and height wise it matches up to a T. Width wise, the new strut, it's just a little bit wider than the stock mounting screws. So we need to figure out how we're going to mount it up. What I did is I actually took a drill bit and a file and basically reamed out my holes to the outside from center. Okay, all 4 of them, I basically drilled them out so that it matches our new strut base bolt pattern. Okay, we're actually running a flat bottom strut, so we need to make sure that our strut is mounted vertically on the transom of the boat. You don't want it cocked to the side or whatnot. It needs to be perfectly vertical, okay, so it doesn't throw off the ride of the boat. Okay, which actually brings me to this: when you're strut shopping, you can actually get round bottom struts or flat bottom struts. There's a big debate, you know, whether or not they actually do what they're supposed to do. Round bottom, you know, is traditional. Flat bottom is like a modified. And you know, to me, I think a flat bottom strut works really good on catamarans and hydroplanes. It actually gives you, like, a, you know, on a hydroplane, a third ride surface, you know, something for the boat to ride on. With a catamaran style hull, that flat bottom will give you like a little bit extra trim if you're running some down angle or running the strut absolutely flat with the ride surface. It'll actually give you a little bit of trim if you need it, you know. You know, the bottoms of the boat's flat. Why not run a flat bottom strut? It gives it, you know, a nice ride surface. Okay, so you got a couple options when you're strut shopping. You know, stuffing tube goes through the strut, all the way through the strut. Your bearing goes in your stuffing tube, and your shaft basically rides on that bushing bearing and the bearing spins while the shaft is spinning, basically half the RPM of your shaft. Okay, so when you use a Speedmaster strut, 9 times out of 10 you will definitely have to replace the stuffing tube on pretty much any ready to run boat. Okay, so I've already got the holes drilled out for our strut base. I went ahead and made a backer plate, okay, so we don't have to fumble around with washers in this tight area. So I went ahead and made a fiberglass backer plate. I basically traced out the mounting pattern on my base plate. I cut this little area right here out for the bellow, which I've actually done on the strut base as well. Okay, like I said, you got to modify parts on your boats to get things to work. So we're going to put our base up there, and the bellows kind of running into it, so I tried to take off as little as I could so we don't prematurely wear a hole in our bellow. Alright, so what I'm going to use to waterproof, like I mentioned, Loctite marine adhesive. Okay, I'm just going to kind of lightly, that's too much, going to actually lightly go on there. If you put too freaking much, it'll like squeeze out and just be a pain in the butt to clean up, you know. So just lightly go on there, save you some time in the long run. Okay, so basically going to just kind of hang that right here. I'm going to go ahead and put one screw in just to kind of get it where it needs to be at. Keep in mind, you got to make sure this thing's vertical on the transom of your boat. Okay, very, very important, especially with flat bottom struts. Okay, so a lot of guys ask me, how do I get in there to install my screws? So this boat here, because it's got larger nuts, I'm actually going to use this guy here. So the bad thing about this, whenever I go to put my nut in the boat, the nut's gonna fall out. You feel me? So what I like to do, okay, what I like to do is put a little bit of that marine adhesive. Usually I put it in my socket. Okay, boom. All right, a little bit of that marine adhesive in there. I also take a slither of a paper towel. Okay, I actually take a little slither of paper towel. I put it on the edge of my socket like so. I put my nut in there, and that holds everything in place for you. Okay, boom. All right, now just rip that little piece of paper towel off, and I'll do it as needed. Okay, so we're going to put our nut plate in. I've already got a screw in there, so we're going to try to line this up with the screw. It might take me a second. It might. Just kind of put all 4 of my nuts in. Okay. So I've got all 4 of my screws and nuts in. I have not cinched it down yet. So before I cinch them down tight, I'm just going to make sure that my strut is vertical. It's very important. Very, very, very important with a flat bottom. Good, I'm just eyeing it. You know, you don't have to break out a level box or nothing. You know, just kind of eye it. Make sure it's on the money. So it wasn't too hard. A little bit of modifications, a little thinking. We got the strut mounted up, and it's ironclad. It ain't going nowhere. Perfectly vertical. So in the next video in the series, we're either going to do the stuffing tube, which is what I would like to do. But if it don't come in tomorrow, we're actually going to mount up our rudder. Okay, I'm actually going to be using this extended rudder base that I've actually modified, opposed to the short rudder base. Okay, we'll be doing that. Later on, we're going to be installing a motor mount, Turnigy 2150 3665, and Fly Color 90, water cooling, water pickup, the whole 9. Probably gonna reinforce the tunnel on this boat with carbon fiber, because the electronics tray is actually busted loose here. So probably gonna install this motor mount. Okay, it's basically gonna be a full build. So ring the bell to get notified for that. Hopefully my little spill about flat bottoms and strut options. Hopefully it helps you guys out. We'll see you next time.